This is Mr. BlackTerror, and you've just stepped into the darkest corner of the internet. Before we begin, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? What hour of the night is it? And don't forget to share this video with anyone who laughs at possession stories. Let them hear what real fear sounds like. I moved to Redwater, Oregon in the winter of 2021, a small town wrapped in fog, surrounded by towering pines that swayed like they were whispering secrets. I wasn't the kind of person who believed in hauntings, curses, or demons. I was a paramedic. My world was medicine, logic, and things I could touch with my hands. But Redwater changed that. Everything started because of a woman named Marissa Hawley, 29 years old. Lived alone in a small brown cabin at the edge of Cedarline Forest. Locals avoided that road after dark, but nobody ever gave me a reason that made sense. They just said, some people shouldn't live that close to the woods. The first call came on a stormy night in March. Heavy rain hammered the windshield of our ambulance as my partner, Jill, drove us toward Marissa's location. Dispatch said she'd called 911 herself, screaming that something was trying to take her voice. We didn't understand what that meant until we got there. The house looked old, but normal. Porch light flickering weakly. Rain pouring off the roof in sheets. But the moment I stepped out of the ambulance, the forest behind the house felt tense, like the trees were leaning in to watch. We knocked. No answer, Marissa? This is EMS. I shouted. A low, strained voice answered from inside. Help me. Jill and I exchanged a look and pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. Not rot, something worse. Metallic, sharp, almost electric. Inside, the lights were off except for one desk lamp in the corner, illuminating the living room in a soft amber glow. Marissa was sitting on the floor, her back against the wall, knees pulled tightly to her chest. Her long black hair was plastered to her face with sweat. She stared at us with huge eyes, the whites showing all the way around. Her voice shook. It's inside. I can't, she choked suddenly, grabbing her throat as if someone's hand tightened around it. We rushed to her. Hey, stay with me, I said, checking her pulse. It was fast, too fast, but rhythmic. Nothing medical explained the panic in her eyes. Then she whispered something that made my stomach drop. It waits in the trees. I shouldn't have answered it. Answered what? Jill knelt beside her. What did you answer, Marissa? But before she could respond, her body jolted violently, her spine arching like she was being pulled upward by invisible strings. A ragged cry tore from her throat, except it wasn't her voice. It was low, broken, like multiple voices grinding under her skin. Then she looked at me, not at me, into me, like something behind her eyes was searching for a way out. Get her on the stretcher, Jill said urgently, but the moment we reached for her, every lamp and light in the room flickered and died. Complete darkness, only the sound of the storm outside, and Marissa's strained breathing filled the room. I turned on my flashlight. The beam fell across Marissa's face, and for a moment, I swear her pupils weren't round. They were thin, slitted, like an animal's eyes reflecting the light back at me. Then she whispered, not with her own voice, but with something layered beneath it. It likes you. My blood turned to ice. Let's move, I told Jill. Now. We lifted her together, but her body felt rigid, her limbs trembling with unnatural tension. She didn't blink, didn't speak again. But the entire way to the ambulance, her head slowly turned to follow me, like she was tracking me, Not Jill. We secured her. And I climbed into the back while Jill drove. That was when things got worse. As soon as we pulled onto the main road, Marissa started whispering. At first, it sounded like gibberish. But then I realized she was repeating my name, soft at first, then louder, then distorted. David. David. Hearing your own name in someone else's warped voice is something that never leaves you. I pressed the emergency call button so dispatch could listen in. Marissa, listen to me, I said, keeping my voice steady. You're safe. We're taking you to the hospital. Her head snapped sideways so fast I heard her neck crack. She stared up at the ambulance ceiling, her mouth hanging open. Then she gasped, not like someone losing air, like something was crawling up her throat. Her chest heaved, and a sound came out wet and rasping. I used my flashlight again and froze. There were bruises forming on her neck, in the shape of long fingers, but nobody was touching her. I reached for my radio. Dispatch, we need. I didn't finish. Every electronic device in the ambulance shut off at once. The radio, the monitor, even the overhead lights. The ambulance plunged into darkness, lit only by flashing lightning through the back windows. Jill shouted from the front. Everything's dead. I'm trying to. Then the brakes slammed and the vehicle skidded to a stop. I hit the wall hard, grabbing onto the side rail to steady myself. Jill? I yelled. No answer. Just rain pounding the roof. I opened the partition. Jill was slumped forward, her head bowed. Jill, hey! She lifted her face slowly. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't blinking. My heart pounded. What the hell? Then Marissa spoke behind me. That's not her. I spun around. Marissa was sitting upright on the stretcher, something she couldn't have done, with the straps tightened. But they weren't tightened anymore. They hung loose. Untouched. Her hair hung over her face, dripping with sweat. Her voice was deeper now, layered, vibrating through the air. It crawls through voices, she whispered. Through anything with breath. Anything warm. Lightning flashed again, illuminating her eyes, dark, glassy, empty. It wants you next. Then the back doors of the ambulance burst open so violently that cold rain exploded inside. The wind howled, swirling like something alive. And something moved in the tree line behind us. Tall, bent, jerking from trunk to trunk, like it had too many limbs to control. I slammed the doors shut and locked them. Breathing hard, Marissa began laughing, a cruel, broken laugh that didn't belong to a human throat. You can't shut it out. You followed its voice. What are you talking about? I yelled, her grin stretched unnaturally. You heard me call for help. My blood turned to ice. You didn't call 911, I whispered. She shook her head slowly. It did. The ambulance suddenly rocked hard enough to send equipment flying. Something hit the roof, scraped across it, heavy, moving toward the front. I grabbed Marissa's stretcher, dragging both of us toward the front seats. Jill still wasn't moving. I shook her until she let out a small, strained breath. She wasn't unconscious. She was frozen, like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. The roof dented inward with a deafening slam. I didn't wait. I threw the ambulance into drive and floored it. Tires screeched. Mud sprayed. We shot down the empty highway. For a moment, nothing followed. Then in the side mirror I saw it, a tall, twisting shape crawling out of the trees and onto the road, running upright. Fast. Too fast. Every instinct I had screamed that if we stopped again, we were dead. We didn't stop until we reached Redwater Memorial Hospital, skidding to a halt under the bright floodlights. The moment we entered the building, Marissa collapsed. Dead silent. Eyes normal. Pulse weak but steady. Whatever was inside her had left. Doctors took her in. And Jill finally snapped out of whatever trance she'd been in. Police asked me what really happened. Lead. I said our equipment malfunctioned. I said we'd hydroplaned. I said Marissa had a panic attack because telling the truth wouldn't help her or anyone. But here's the part I still can't explain. 2 nights later, as I tried to sleep, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. Unknown number. One voicemail. When I played it, my blood froze. It was my own voice, whispering softly, "Help me. Something's trying to take my voice." Exactly the same sentence Marissa supposedly said on her call. Except she never made that call. So who did? And how did it use my voice? Evan Parker always said his hometown felt different after the winter storms rolled through. Cold Hollow, Vermont already lived up to its name, but that November, the air felt heavy, like the town was holding its breath. I didn't believe in curses or spirits, and certainly not possession. But everything changed the week Evan's little brother began speaking in a voice that didn't belong to him. I'd known 11-year-old Caleb since he was a wide-eyed kid, following his brother around with a skateboard too big for him. Quiet, shy, the type who apologized even when you bumped into him. That's why the first time I heard him speak that night, every hair on my body stood up. I had gone to the Parker's house because Evan texted me, "Bro, come over. Something's wrong with Caleb." When I stepped inside, their golden retriever, Moose, didn't even approach me. He was crouched beneath the dining table, growling low, staring at the hallway like something stood there. "Where's Caleb?" I asked. Evan didn't answer. He simply pointed toward the far bedroom. The hallway was dim, only the faint yellow glow of a nightlight bleeding onto the wooden floorboards. The cold coming from that direction didn't make sense. The house heater was running full blast. When I pushed the door open, I saw Caleb sitting on his bed, his back straight, his hands resting perfectly on his knees. Too still, too controlled. A way no kid sits unless someone's forcing them. "Caleb?" I said. His head turned slowly, unnaturally slow, like he had to think about every inch of movement. His eyes were dark. Not the color, but the feeling. Empty. Unblinking. "You shouldn't be here," he said. But it wasn't Caleb's voice. It was deeper and layered, like 2 voices speaking at once. I felt rooted to the spot, every instinct screaming at me to run. Evan stepped behind me, whispering, "Dude, I told my mom something's wrong, but she thinks he's just tired." Then Caleb smiled, not wide, but tight, a small curl of the lips that looked wrong on a kid's face. "You think this is about him being tired?" the voice said. "He hasn't slept in 3 nights. Not since he let me in." My mouth went dry. "Let you in? What are you talking about?" Caleb tilted his head. "He opened the door," Evan whispered. "What door?" Caleb raised one trembling hand and pointed toward the window. Outside was nothing but the backyard woods. Thick, dark, packed with skeletal winter trees. "He said he heard tapping on the glass at night," Evan whispered shakily. "But when my mom checked, no one was there." Caleb chuckled, except it wasn't a kid's laugh. It was guttural, amused, chilling. She didn't look closely enough. My heart dropped. Something in that bedroom watched us through that boy's eyes. Something calculating. Caleb leaned forward slightly. Do you want me to show you where I came in? He remembers. Even if you don't. I grabbed Evan's wrist. We should leave. But before we could move, Caleb's body jerked violently as if invisible strings were pulling him upright. His small frame shouldn't have been able to move that fast, but suddenly he was standing inches from us. His breath hit my face, cold, like winter air. You can leave, the voice said. But he can't. At that moment, Evan's mom burst into the hallway. What is going on in here? I heard, she froze. Caleb turned toward her, that awful smile growing. Mom? Evan whispered, Mom, don't come closer. But she stepped into the room anyway, trying to stay calm. She cupped her son's face with trembling hands. Caleb, sweetheart, look at me. Baby, what's wrong? For a moment, the darkness in his eyes flickered, just briefly, and he whispered in his normal voice, barely audible, Mom, help me. Then his head snapped back so violently we both gasped, and he screamed, a raw, tearing sound that didn't feel human. The lights flickered. Something in the walls groaned like the entire house felt it. Evan pulled his mom backward. We need help. But help wasn't exactly common in Cold Hollow. The nearest hospital was 40 minutes away through icy, pitch-black roads. And even if we made it there, what would we say? That a kid was possessed? Their mom was shaking badly, but she said, Pastor Henders. Call him now. Evan dialed immediately. While we waited, Caleb collapsed to the floor, gasping. His small body shuddered like something was pulling at him from the inside. Every few seconds he coughed, but no sound came out. It was like the room itself swallowed it. Then he whispered, He's in the walls. I glanced around, pulse hammering. Who's in the walls, Caleb? He lifted one trembling finger and pointed toward the vent behind his bed. And then, something scratched from the inside, long, slow, scraping. Metal. We backed away instantly. The pastor practically sprinted through the door 10 minutes later. He wasn't the robe-wearing, cross-waving movie type. He was a normal middle-aged guy with a heavy coat and a flashlight. But when he saw Caleb, he whispered, God help us. He didn't touch the boy. Instead, he kneeled beside him and spoke calmly. Caleb, if you can hear me, stay with me. You are stronger than whatever is trying to take you. The creature inside him laughed. Stronger? It said. He opened the door. He asked for this. The pastor didn't flinch. You don't belong here. The room temperature plummeted so fast I saw my breath. The vent rattled. The walls trembled. Then Caleb let out a guttural gasp and collapsed fully onto the carpet. His body twisted in unnatural angles, his limbs twitching as if something was trying to pull him upward. It lasted 10 horrifying seconds. Then, stillness. Total stillness. I thought he was dead. But then Caleb inhaled sharply, his chest rising, and he looked around in confusion. Evan? He whispered weakly. Mom? His voice was normal, his eyes clear. Evan dropped beside him, crying with relief. His mom held him to her chest like she feared he'd disappear, but I wasn't looking at Caleb. I was staring at the puzzle. Vent. Something shifted behind the metal slats like a shadow, peeling away and sliding deeper into the walls. I stepped backward. Pastor, did it leave? He didn't answer. He just stared at the vent with a pale expression and said, No, it moved. That night, the Parker family left the house and never stayed another night there. But here's the part I never told Evan. 2 days later, when I was home alone, I heard tapping on my bedroom window. Slow, soft, patient. Just like Caleb described. And when I forced myself to look, there were small, pale fingerprints on the glass. Not outside. Inside. My name is Ethan Marlowe, and I haven't told this story to anyone. Not because I'm afraid people won't believe me, but because I'm terrified they will. I grew up in Ridgway, Oregon, a quiet logging town surrounded by miles of pine forest. Nothing extraordinary ever happened there, until the year my little brother, Joel, turned 9. That was when the Hollow Boy came for him. Joel was always adventurous, always wandering deeper into the woods than he should. One afternoon in late October, he came home later than usual. Mud on his shoes, pine needles tangled in his hair, eyes red like he'd been crying. "Joel, you okay?" I asked. He hesitated and then whispered, "Ethan, I met someone." "Who?" He thought for a long moment before saying, "A boy, about my age." But he was weird. His face didn't move right. I laughed, assuming it was just a kid's imagination. But Joel didn't smile. He looked genuinely shaken. "He asked me to play hide and seek," he continued. "And when I said yes, he said he already knew where I lived." That night, I woke up to the sound of soft tapping on our bedroom window. 3 slow taps, then silence. I figured it was just branches in the wind. But the next morning, Joel's window had tiny handprints all over the glass, too small to be his, too thin. Like someone with bone-like fingers had pressed against it. Mom blamed neighborhood. Kids. Joel said nothing. Over the next week, Joel changed. He stopped eating his favorite foods, started speaking less, staring more. His voice grew flat, expressionless. And one night, while we were getting ready for bed, he turned to me with completely emotionless eyes and said, "He wants to come inside me now." My blood ran cold. "Who, Joel?" "The Hollow Boy. He says there's no space in his own body anymore." Then he smiled, a slow, stretched, unnatural smile I had never seen on him before. That night, I woke up to Joel standing inches from my bed, whispering something over and over again. It took me a moment to understand. He was whispering to the empty corner of the room. "Not yet. Not yet. Soon." I pretended to be asleep. A few days later, Mom finally noticed something was horribly wrong. Joel would sit in the living room for hours, not blinking, sometimes counting under his breath, sometimes muttering gibberish. One evening, he carved something into the wooden dining table. "Let him in." Mom screamed at him. He didn't react, didn't even look at her. That night, the temperature in the house dropped so low we could see our breath. The power flickered. The whole place felt like it was holding its breath. Around midnight, Joel began shrieking from his room. I ran to him. His body was arched backward on the bed, mouth open as if something was pulling him from the inside. His eyes were pale, almost white. Something in the room was scraping the walls, moving fast like an animal circling us. Then Joel's voice stopped. His body went limp. He sat up slowly, head tilting sideways like his neck barely worked. And then he said, in a voice that was not his, "He's here now." I froze. Mom screamed, but Joel, or whatever was wearing him, only smiled. Mom dragged Joel to doctors, psychologists, anyone who could explain what was happening. Nobody could. They said he was dissociating, but Joel wasn't gone. Something else was living inside him. The last person we visited wasn't a doctor. She was an old native woman from the Silent Pines Reservation. Name was Nora Greyfeather. She listened to Joel's story quietly, her eyes almost watering when Joel wasn't looking. She told Mom, "There are beings that wander the old forests. Some never had faces of their own. They borrow the faces of children until the child becomes hollow. What do we do?" I asked. She looked at me with slow dread. "You must return him to the woods, to the place where the exchange began." "Exchange?" I whispered. She nodded. "The Hollow Boy trades. He wants a body. And he chose your brother." At dusk, Mom stayed home. She was too terrified to go. I took Joel's cold, unresponsive hand and led him through the trees back to where he said he first met the boy. The forest was unnaturally quiet. No wind, no birds. Even the leaves felt dead. We reached a small clearing with an old, rotting tree stump. Joel tugged his hand away and walked ahead, movements sharp and jerky. Then he said, with two voices speaking through him, "He's ready." The temperature dropped instantly. My breath fogged the air. A shadow crawled out from behind the stump, not walking, but unfolding. Like a puppet without strings. It was shaped like a boy, but its face was flat, hollow, with only two empty holes where eyes should have been. It pointed at Joel. Joel's body convulsed, spine twisting. He screamed in two voices, his own and something darker, deeper. Nora's warning echoed in my head. "He wants the boy's body." I didn't think, I just acted. I lunged between Joel and the figure. The Hollow Boy tilted its featureless head. Then the forest exploded with sound, wailing, screaming, thousands of whispers. A storm of voices punching through the trees. The Hollow Boy rushed toward Joel, its hollow face stretching unnaturally wide. I grabbed Joel, yanked him back and screamed, "He can't have you." For the first time, Joel's real voice broke through. "Ethan, don't let him." The Hollow Boy shrieked, a sound so sharp it sliced through the air. The ground cracked open. Black tendrils shot from the earth, wrapping around Joel's legs, dragging him toward the figure like he was nothing more than prey. I held him, pulling with everything I had. I felt his bones shifting under my hands. Joel screamed my name, screamed his. And then the forest fell silent. Everything stopped. The Hollow Boy turned and vanished, just dissolved into the air. Joel collapsed in my arms, unconscious. We got him home. Mom cried and held him for hours. Joel seemed normal at first, laughing, eating, talking. But then, at night, I hear him whisper, not to himself, to someone in the corner of his room. Sometimes I catch him staring at the tree line behind our house, smiling softly, as if someone out there is smiling back. 2 days ago, I saw something that froze my blood. Joel was brushing his teeth. He looked up into the mirror, and for a split second, his reflection had no face. I don't know how long Joel has left. I don't know if the Hollow Boy truly left him, or if he's just waiting for Joel to get weak again. But I do know one thing. When you hear tapping on your window at night, don't open the curtains, because if you do, you might see a boy with no face, telling you he already knows where you live.